If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Your home for the best sports radio for your afternoon drive is right here. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I want to remind you about our friends at Sound Sleep Medical. Get a free sleep screening and consultation when Scotty G and the coach broadcast live from Sound Sleep tomorrow. Visit Sound Sleep Medical with 6 convenient locations across Utah and start sleeping better every day. Time to talk some NBA, draft, playoffs, everything under the sun in the association. He covers the NBA for SB Nation. He's Ricy O'Donnell with us here on Jake and Ben. Hi, Ricky. How are you?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
We're doing terrific. I guess as you watched the lottery and you saw the top 4 unfold with Chicago, Memphis, the Jazz, and the Washington Wizards landing those top 4 picks, what were your initial reactions?
My first thought was that the tankers got rewarded this time around, and that hasn't been happening a lot lately. Last year, the Mavs jumped up from 10-1. I think the Spurs jumped up from 8-2. Then the year before that, the Hawks won the lottery from the 10th position. So the NBA made a big deal about tanking. They're rushing through lottery reform, but for this last go-around under the current system, the Wizards and Jazz got it done. So I think that both those teams desperately needed a bit of lottery luck, and I think especially for the Jazz, they're going to be set up pretty well now. Like, they executed this rebuild plan at a pretty high level when you look at the combination of having established players like Jaren Jackson and Lauri Markkanen and, you know, some rising young players like Keontae George and Ace Bailey. And now they get a chance to land a blue chip final piece to this before they start to push the plan forward. So the Jazz needed to get lucky, and they sure did.
So having your most recent mock draft in front of me, and I would encourage all our listeners to check it out, you have DeBonsa, Peterson, Boozer, 1, 2, 3. How set in stone do you think that is?
I wouldn't really say it's set in stone. That is my best guess right now. But, you know, who knows what these teams are going to prefer. Like the Jazz, of course, have Carlos Boozer in their front office. I happen to think Cam Boozer is the best player in the draft. It seems like he's unlikely to go 1 or 2, but you never know. It just takes one team to decide that he's the guy they want to take. So that's my best guess for right now, but I'm not sure if that's how it'll play out.
Ricky, you're doing this, and this is not an accusation, but I see this a lot across the NBA draft. And in fact, I'm almost positive wherever Cam Boozer gets drafted, 2, 3, 4, the team is going to come out and say, we had him number 1 on our board, and I'm going to believe him. I think a lot of people have Cam Boozer number 1 on the board. Why do so many people value him so highly?
Yeah, he just wins. I mean, in high school, he won 4 state championships. In Florida, 3 EYBL championships on the Nike AAU tour. He won 2 gold medals at USA Basketball. So the guy is just always the best player on the team that wins the championship. I would say that is one point in his favor. And then, of course, this year, it took a miracle for Duke to get knocked out in the Elite Eight when Braylon Mullins hit that crazy shot to beat them. Duke lost 3 games the whole year by a combined 5 points. And I don't think their roster was that good. Really, it was Boozer being the best player in the country. He got 59 of 61 first-place votes for the Wooden Award to become the 5th freshman ever to win that. And it's like, who was the second best player was Yaxel Lendeborg in college basketball? He's 5 years older than Boozer. So to be so good and so young and influence winning like that, that's to me what makes Boozer the best player. And I guess like regular people will see his athletic limitations, but in the modern NBA, most of the not all the great players are great athletes, like Jokic, not a good athlete. Luka, not a good athlete. Even Shea's not like dunking on people's heads. He's good because he's skilled and he's huge. Steph Curry, not, known for his athletic ability really. So I think that Boozer just wins, and he wins at a high level. So that's why I like him.
Looking at the draft as a whole, of course, we've heard the hype. I mean, it feels like for multiple years now with this particular group. Are you buying into the hype currently? Will this be a great draft class?
I think the reason it's good is because of the top 4. Like, there's a pretty big drop-off after 4, I think, in this class. And I'm here in Chicago. I know the Bulls are happy to land 4. I'm sure the Jazz fans are thrilled to land in the top 4 out there. So I think that's why this is considered a good class. Like, the 3rd and 4th picks this year, I think, are stronger than they are historically. And then also, man, this current NBA rookie class was so good too. And the top 4 picks, even the 5th pick, if you want to include Ace Bailey, were all really impressive as rookies. So I also think that that's played a little bit into the hype as well.
So, Ricky, give us some context on where you think these top 3 or 4 players are compared to maybe where last year was before what we saw last season. Because, yes, VJ Edgecombe was incredible, and Khan was better than anyone expected, and Dylan Harper's coming on. And, yeah, Ace was really good, and we know Cooper Flagg was historically good. So where do you think these 4 or 3 guys maybe would have slotted in last year's draft, or even compared to going back to, like, a Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson draft?
Yeah, like I think that AJ DeBonsa is a much better prospect than Brandon Miller or Ace Bailey. So I would say that he's immediately above those guys. Boozer and Flagg have been competing against each other their whole lives. Basically, Flagg was in this class. Imagine how strong this class would be with Cooper Flagg in it too. Flagg was always in this class, and then he reclassified to, only spent 3 years in high school, entered Duke at 17 years old. So I would put Flagg and Boozer on the same level. I always thought that I would give the advantage to Flagg because his defensive ceiling was just so much higher. But as he has taken on more shot creation ability in the NBA, and he's sort of been played more like a big wing instead of what I thought he was, which would be like a Sean Marion, Andre Kirilenko type of like all-world defender, I don't think his defense is that impressive anymore. Certainly he's got a higher defensive ceiling than Boozer, but I just haven't seen like all defense level effort out of him yet. So I think Flagg and Boozer are like right there with each other, and certainly Wemby on top of those guys. Wemby's the best prospect I've ever seen hit the NBA draft. In general, though, I would say that this group this year in the top 4 stacks up very well to the group last year. Like Edgecombe and Knippel were phenomenal, and Dylan Harper, like you said, has had some terrific flashes in the playoffs. But these guys are right there with them, and if they land in the right situations, they can have the same success.
How do you calculate Peterson's bizarre cramping issue at Kansas? Does that factor in at all?
Yeah, super weird because, I watched him score 58 points against AJ DeBonsa as seniors in high school. And when he did that, he looked like he was going to be the guy in this class. And that was when I was questioning myself having Boozer at 1 because DeBonsa just looked like he was the second coming of Kobe Bryant or something. But I think like soft tissue injuries are weird, and they're weird for fans to evaluate too. Like fans are accustomed to it being a torn ACL and you're going to be out for 9 months to a year, or a torn Achilles and you're going to be out for at least a year. Like the soft tissue injuries, there's like no timeline really on when you could come back. And I think that drives a lot of fans crazy. So I think that was part of it with DeBonsa. And then like I saw that ESPN report too, that he was just taking too much creatine and he wasn't having enough water. To me, that's like a little bit of a red flag. It's like, why wasn't he getting better advice, or, how did no one steer him in a better direction on that? I will say though, when Peterson played, he was putting up crazy scoring numbers. He was at like 45 points per 100 possessions for most of the year. So super productive on a permanent basis. And I thought his 3-point shooting was way better than advertised. He was looking like a legit movement shooter, running off screens, knocking down shots. I think he'd be a great fit for the Jazz next to Keontae George. It's like they need a bigger defensive guard next to him who can space the floor and hit threes. And Peterson can do that. And maybe he can be even way more than that if these soft tissue injuries heal and he can be back to himself, top self athletically. But, the thing I don't know, just watching the games and looking at the stats, is like, who is the person behind the player? And I think that that's where like the draft intel comes in. And that is a really key part of the process that like me and you just aren't going to have access to. So I think the evaluation on the court could still be very promising for Peterson. Not as good of a playmaker as I thought he'd be. Not sure if he's a point guard like he claims to be. He looks like more of a 2 guard to me, but you got to figure out the person behind the player as well.
There obviously is going to be some swing for these teams. They're taking a swing on somebody, hoping that they get that 1 out of 1 outcome with these players and they become a superstar. Of the three, and let's even bring Caleb Wilson into this conversation, if any of these 4 players hits their absolute best case scenario, the way Shea has, the way Jokic has, who's the best player?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess it's Dubonsa because he has the best physical tools. But to me, Boozer is the highest chance of reaching his potential, if that makes sense, or has the best chance of hitting his ceiling. But probably Dubonsa. I mean, Dubonsa's measurements today were crazy.
Yeah.
He's got like serious weight on him and a 42-inch vertical when you're that heavy with a 7-foot wingspan. So, yeah, Dubonsa's tools are absolutely sick. And I think that if he can hit his peak outcome, he could be scary.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good night's sleep.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Do you have any thoughts in what the NBA is going to do or is reportedly going to do about tanking this offseason? Good ideas, bad ideas? Do you like what they're thinking about?
My initial reaction was that I didn't like it because I think that like fan bases of bad teams, as someone here in Chicago, you need some hope every once in a while. And like, if you're the worst team in the league and now you're going to fall to the 12th pick, it's like, man, what are you really selling your fans? You're not selling them wins or hope. So, and I also think that rebuilding is just a healthy, natural part of the NBA life cycle. How about that too? Like, I wasn't sure I thought the tanking problem was a little overblown personally. Because like, it's cool that the Pistons built their team organically and now they're a 60-win team and they're probably going to be competing deep into the playoffs every year. It doesn't mean they, tricked their way into a championship or whatever, but they set up a sustainable core for what should be long-term success. We'll see. And then obviously same thing with the Spurs after getting Wemby and even the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves were a horrible organization. They missed the playoffs 15 years in a row. And now they've been in the Western Conference Finals in consecutive years. They're back in the second round. They're winning series after they get Anthony Edwards with the number 1 overall pick. So the current reform that appears like it's going to pass, it's kind of wild. It seems like it just randomizes the draft order. So like, it really makes getting lucky even more important than it is now because you can't game the system at all. But we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I'm open-minded to it. Certainly I didn't there were some ugly moments with tanking, no doubt, and it gave the NBA some bad PR. So I'm not shocked to see them push something through so quickly. And I'm a little skeptical of this, but they got knocked out before 2030. So I think, it'll be a short-term look at what this system could look like.
Along those lines, it was the Jazz took a real flyer last year on Ace Bailey. They'd never had him in for a workout. Obviously they'd seen him a ton at Rutgers, but the intel was not great, just like everybody didn't have, particularly great intel on him. But they could do that because they knew this year they could tank again and finish with a bottom 4 record and have a very good chance of holding on to their pick and maybe even winning and getting the number 2 overall pick. And it happened. And it made last year's pick totally justifiable, and it just also happened to work out. You can't do that anymore. So how do you think it changes, A, the value of draft picks, and B, kind of how teams are going to approach it?
Yeah, well, why were the Jazz in that situation? Because they traded Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. So, maybe you don't go down that path.
Yeah.
And maybe you, retain some players for a longer period if you no longer feel like there's a get-rich-quick scheme at the end of the rainbow on the other side of the rebuild. So, I think it's going to just, totally change teams' decision-making. For example, someone here in Chicago, when the Bulls traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, I was like, this is crazy because they're never going to get a bite at one of the premium talents in these, next couple drafts. Instead, they'd be like a higher floor team without a very high ceiling, essentially. And it feels like the NBA now wants to incentivize that. And they want you to just like, hey, build a team that's not a civic embarrassment and build a team that is competitive at least. And maybe you could get lucky. Maybe you could get your future star that way. It sort of seems like that's what the NBA is trying to incentivize. So I have an open mind to seeing how it could work. But yeah, I would be worried. Like if you're a bad team, you could be bad for a long time. Of course, like look at the Kings. The Kings have been bad forever, even though they're always in the lottery. So it can happen with bad management and bad ownership, even in this system.
Is Oklahoma City beatable?
I think Wemby could get him, maybe. I would pick the Thunder in that series, but Wemby's just insane. So I think that there's a chance. The Spurs played him so well in the regular season. They seem to match up physically with them very well. I would pick the Thunder, but, no Jalen Williams. It's not going to be a cakewalk, and I think Wemby's got it in him to, pull a special moment out so early in his career at age 22. So I wouldn't feel confident in picking the Thunder, but I would still take them in that potential Western Conference Finals matchup.
Looking at what's happened so far in the playoffs, and really we can look over the last couple of years, the Celtics win a title, and obviously we know what happened last year with Jason Tatum, but they trade off all their pieces, get under the tax aprons, and then turn it on late, and you think, oh, this is a team that could get maybe to the finals again. What a crazy year. And they get ousted by a pretty mediocre 76ers team, and everyone realizes, like, oh, yeah, they were way better when they had Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday and all these kind of proven players. But they did have to trade off their pieces to get under the tax aprons because they're so punitive. Is that the reality of what Oklahoma City is about to be facing in every team that reaches the mountaintop?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what the league wants. And, in a lot of ways, the league has sort of killed free agency. Like, who's been the last big free agent to change teams? It was like Kawhi in 2019. With this CBA, stars don't really change hands in free agency, but maybe one way to stock, bad teams with better players is to let some young guys actually change teams in restricted free agency because the CBA is going to be so punitive, like you said. So, yeah, look at the Nuggets this year. They got a decision to make on Peyton Watson. Are they going to trade away like Cam Johnson or Christian Brown to try to hook up Peyton Watson? Who's going to want those guys? So I think this is how it's going to be. And the Thunder are probably going to lose Isaiah Hartenstein. Like they might lose Lou Dort. So it's going to be a different team. But of course, they got a lottery pick this year. They got another first round pick. The talent pipeline keeps coming for the Thunder. So they're going to be tough to beat.
I believe that LeBron will play next year because I think he does want the retirement tour. The question is where? Where do you think LeBron James plays next year? And maybe you do think he's retiring. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
No, I totally agree with you. LeBron likes attention a little bit too much to not do a retirement tour. So I think if he's going to play next year, and I think it would be great in Cleveland. Why not? Like, go back for the third time. They got a veteran team there, obviously, like James Harden. I believe they could bring him back. You got Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and of course Donovan Mitchell. So I would like the idea of LeBron on that team. I wonder if he would take a pay cut to go there. He hasn't really taken, a significant pay cut like that. And on the open market, he'd still be worth more. So that would be interesting. I would say Cleveland is my preferred LeBron destination, but I also think it'd be cool to see him on the Knicks if he wanted to go to the Knicks. Like I remember in 2010, there was, so much hype that LeBron could go to the Knicks or to the Bulls. He ends up going to Miami, but I always thought it'd be sweet to see LeBron in Madison Square Garden. So I think that'd be another good option for him if he's willing to take a pay cut.
Where does Giannis end up?
Great question. I don't know. I guess Miami. Miami seems like they're the most desperate for him because they're just not escaping the middle. And I guess now being in the middle isn't so bad. You could still maybe get lucky in the lottery if this new reform passes through. But I think Miami just needs some hope. Like Pat Riley's always chasing stars, and Giannis is someone out there who doesn't seem like he's going to go for as much as Gobert went for, or even Mikal Bridges went for. So they could potentially make a competitive offer. I think the Blazers could get in the mix too because they made the playoffs this year. They seem to want to win. They also have a very cheap new owner, so we'll see how that plays into it. But I wouldn't be shocked if he wants to, make a splash and go get Giannis.
You're there in the Windy City. What do you think about Chicago's reboot?
Yeah, well, the Bulls have been a deeply pathetic franchise for the last 9 years. They have the 4th worst cumulative record in the NBA. Arturas Karnisovas was running this team into the ground straight up. So he got fired. That's awesome. Good decision by Bulls ownership. One of the first times in my life that I will praise them, but they made the correct decision to fire Arturas. And thankfully, Arturas got fired before he made a panic trade to try to save his job. So the Bulls still have all their future assets. They got the most cap space in the league because they don't have any good players. So they have plenty of cap space this year. 2 top 15 picks. So I think there's a little bit of optimism right now. Moving into 4, probably going to be Caleb Wilson. I think he's the 4th best player in this draft. But like, why is this class considered good? I think it's because the top 4 is really good. And Caleb Wilson is probably better than, the 4th pick in most years. I don't know if he'll be better than Con Knippel, but there's been some good number 4 overall picks in recent years. And Caleb Wilson, I think, can follow into that trend. And then at 15, you just finally get that pick from the Lauri Markkanen deal, and you get it in a good draft and at the absolute highest pick you could have landed, number 15 for a lottery protected pick. So I'm excited to see how new GM Bryson Graham approaches this rebuild. And he seems to be self-aware that the Bulls are pretty far away. It's not going to happen overnight, which I think is the correct takeaway from the situation. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Ricky, for the draft nerds in general, who is a name that's going to surprise everybody being drafted way higher than they think?
That's a good question. What about Adai Mara from Michigan? I was around Michigan for March Madness. I had a credential to the Big Ten tournament, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in Chicago, and then the Final Four national title in Indy. Talked to Mara throughout the process, and he was just so impressive on that run. I think he helped himself more than any other player in March Madness. Also, a lot of these supersized centers have performed pretty well in the NBA. Like Zach Edey's awesome when he's healthy, and Donovan Clingan had a pretty good season this year too for Portland. So just to be 7'3" with a 7'7" wingspan, like there's only so many of those guys in the world. Mara should be good in drop coverage defensively, and then he's a special outlet passer and a pretty capable scorer when he gets the ball inside. I was also impressed by the fact that he got a lot better as a free throw shooter over the course of the year. His numbers on the season look bad, but he was straight up trash at free throws for most of the season and then really turned it on late. So I'd like to see that improvement. I love Mara. I'm going to predict he goes 5 to the Clippers. I didn't have that in my mock draft, but Keaton Wagler and his T-Rex arms the other day is not going to win too many people over. So I'm going to go Mara to the Clippers at 5.
Ricy O'Donnell makes the magic happen for SB Nation, covering the NBA. Ricky, a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, thank you. There you go. Good stuff all the way across the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a lot of the conversation you hear around the draft, which is, AJ's measurables and production already are so incredible. And Darren was the favorite coming out of high school, and Cam Boozer does nothing but win. So how do you pick between those three? And the truth is, you're not getting a bad player. Whoever you pick is going to be really good. I mean, I think they are really good prospects. Now, what they turn into, nobody knows. Again, Andrew Wiggins was supposed to be a superstar. Jabari Parker barely made it in the NBA. He was really a pretty rotten player.
I was going to say, did he?
Yeah, he's a pretty rotten player
in the NBA.
Like, didn't really ever find anything, despite the fact that he had a really good freshman season at Duke.
Well, there's the example of no heart.
Yeah,
there's the example of you can have all the capability in the world. If you don't have the heart to put into it, you're not going to go anywhere. Speaking of the Bulls, didn't he get drafted by the Bulls?
Or did he go to Milwaukee?
Oh, it's Milwaukee. You're right.
Yeah. So, no, you're right. Yeah, you've got the prospect is one thing. The performance once you get to the NBA is totally different, and then total difference, and we'll see what happens with all of these three players. But as far as the value of these prospects go, I don't know if you can go wrong. But you've got to figure out who you think once they're in your roster, wearing your jersey, is gonna get the most out of their ability.
Ricky's got a mock draft up at sbnation.com, and he's got the Jazz slotted to take Darren Peterson. So we'll see. The Wizards GM did say some very rosy things about A.J. DiBonsa, Ben. They're both from Massachusetts, so, I mean.
Can't go wrong.
That basically means they're taking him.
Yeah.
Obviously. Stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.